Why is there a black woman mopping my hallway during a $10,000 gala? The question cut through the air like a diamond knife. Margaret Thornton stood draped in a Valentino gown, heels clicking against the marble like a court gavel of judgment. Diamonds glinted at her throat, worth more than most houses on this block, maybe even whole city blocks in Harlem. Her posture alone screamed legacy, entitlement, inherited power. Denise Sullivan tightened her grip on the mop, bleach-scented water dripping from the ends like unshed tears. "I'm sorry, ma'am. I was told to clean," she murmured, voice trembling around the edges but not breaking. Margaret scoffed. "Clean, look at yourself. You smell like bleach and welfare checks. You smell like stamped government envelopes and generic hope with no postage. You're dripping poverty on my marble floors." She stepped closer, breathing air heavy with perfume that cost more than Denise's weekly salary. "This is the Lexington. New York City's wealth breathes here. Billionaires walk these halls like gods, and you," she sneered. Trailing one finger along the mop handle, you smear broke poetry onto a cathedral of excess. Know your place. Be invisible. Your kind does that best. Denise said nothing. But silence is a mirror, and mirrors reflect truth eventually. Margaret's smile flickered not because she felt remorse, but because she sensed servitude refusing to collapse into humiliation. "Nothing to say? Expected?" Margaret muttered, turning, heels punctuating every step like a villain's theme music. Laughter followed her departure like confetti made of razors, thin, slicing, and celebratory. But Denise's eyes lifted, just once toward the kitchen doors. Warm light spilled from beneath like a sunrise that hadn't been granted permission to rise. Butter, saffron, and possibility perfumed the air. The scent tasted like legacy, winter energy, unpolished diamonds and simmering oil. Have you ever been judged by the color of your skin and the cheapness of your uniform while hiding a gift so rich no one thought to look for it in a broom closet? The question lingered like smoke rising from a roast no one had ordered yet, and the answer was walking through the hallways with a mop. The Lexington Hotel was built in 1923, during the golden age of American excess when skyscrapers reached for heaven and wallets followed. For nearly a century, it had served as a temple for the wealthiest families in the country. Presidents slept in its penthouse. Hollywood stars leaked secrets into its velvet sofas. Barons of greed signed blood contracts over whiskey older than marriages that survived them. And every autumn, the hotel hosted the event New Yorkers whispered about like forbidden scripture, the Culinary Excellence Gala. $10,000 a plate. 200 guests coated in couture and curated appetites. 5 celebrity chefs sparring not with fists, but flames, spices, and ego plated in gold. Near the entrance, a bronze plaque read, "Excellence is not inherited. It is a choice." The letters gleamed, mocking some, summoning others. It's prophetic to the right person. Denise Sullivan was 36, single mother, night shift janitor from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. inside these walls, daytime prep cook at a struggling soul food restaurant in Harlem, surviving on 4 hours of sleep on the lucky days, 2 subways, 1 bus, a lifetime of resilience. A cramped 1-bedroom in the Bronx, shared with her son Elijah, 8, small body, big heart, dreams bigger than the rent.
Ow.
Nobody at the Lexington knew Denise's last name. Identity and visibility was the uniform they printed on her without ink. To them, she was the cleaning lady, the midnight mop ghost, the forgotten equipment that cleaned the toilets while the wealthy cleaned their conscience by swiping a charity check. Denise had been invisible for 3 years, but invisibility is power when the world underestimates the unseen. Inside her rusted locker, hidden behind spare uniforms no one ever thought to steal, lay a leather-bound notebook. Brown leather with age deeper than lies this hotel told itself, pages filled with handwritten recipes, margins stuffed with precision, lore, technique, love disguised as science. One line read, "Add basil at the final second." No negotiations. Another, 165, a degree hotter, is betrayal. Yet another grandma's truth, 1 drop of bourbon, no applause. Taped to the inside of the locker door was a photograph. Little black girl of 10, braids tied up like Destiny's antennas, standing next to an elderly woman in a white chef's apron, both holding a golden pie. both smiling like victory was already marinated. At the bottom, faded handwriting read, Ruby's Kitchen, Lexington Hotel, 1982. Ruby Sullivan, Denise's grandmother. The woman who taught her how to baptize ingredients in legacy and rewrite souls through flavor? The woman this hotel had surgically erased from history but could never erase from Denise's tongue or hands. Residency, Kitchen Universe. Degree, Culinary Prophecy. Weapon, Butter-Blessed Rebellion. Margaret Thornton was 62, third-generation owner of the Lexington Hotel. Her lineage was a trilogy of velvet ropes, ivory gloves, polite poison, and curated exclusion. She inherited the hotel from her father, Charles Thornton III, who inherited it from his father, and so on. 3 generations of inherited privilege, gone professional, deciding who entered spotlight heaven and who remained service exit myth. Margaret had perfected elegant cruelty over 60-plus years in salts dipped in charm, bias lacquered in etiquette. Her favorite weapon phrase was, "Bless your heart," delivered like a smile candy hollowed out and filled with cyanide sprinkles. In her corner office on the top floor lined with leather-bound books, untouched by curiosity or fingerprints of truth, lay a photograph in a tarnished silver frame, placed face down like evidence she didn't want subpoenaed by the universe. Victoria Price, 40, had been executive chef of the Lexington for 8 years. Media worshipped her face on glossy covers, Food and Wine, critics called her genius royalty. Her career crown jewel dish was saffron lobster biscaled as transcendent, but check the handwriting, ... the era. The origin, maybe stolen genius tastes the same at surface level, but seasoning guilt has a delayed burn. Samuel Brooks, 68, gray hair cropped like history trimmed to short. Perhaps rooted in truth, too tall for gatekeepers to measure, was head of maintenance at the Lexington for 42 years. He started as a young black man in this very building's kitchen, a knife sharply held and dreams sharper. Somewhere along the way, dreams can die when empires starve them intentionally. We fixed bulbs, pipes, and things people wanted repaired and like reputations no one admitted needed fixing. Samuel remembered the summer of 1985 like it was a scar etched behind his eyelids. He remembered who wrote the real recipes Lexington claimed without citation. He remembered why a brilliant black woman, his friend, his blueprint. His erased witness walked out the service entrance in August, holding a cardboard box like a small coffin of unpaid genius, tears trailing like punctuation marks of injustice. Samuel guarded something in his locker, wrapped in cloth older than denial, waiting not for permission, but for collision timing. For 40 years he protected it, like prophecy waiting for punctuation. And then there was Richard Cross, 58, tech titan, self-made billionaire, ranking printed by Forbes among America's wealth gods. But wealth gods often start mortal and wounded. Richard grew up poor in rural Georgia, abandoned by his father at 5. Raised by a mother who worked double shifts at a truck stop diner fighting electrical shutoff notices like eviction curses. Profiles never captured that bitterness, but food would tonight. Hattie Cross had raised Richard on meals conjured from thin air. Not meals. Miracles, scraps, leftovers, dollar store hope, seasoned with survival, stitched together with affection and hunger you can't put on a receipt. Richard knew what real food tasted like, not the kind described with adjectives like exclusive or handcrafted by degree-certified hands, but food forged in the furnace of soul. Tonight, that instinct would rewrite destiny. Inside the Lexington kitchen, head chef royalty was on tea guarded behind a crownet, was about to be unmasked behind a mop cart. Jean-Pierre Laurent, 55, leaned suave in his trimmed uniform of global respect. Michelin star icons stacked triple-like constellations over his resume. Training in lion medals and flavor recognition, meals served 2 presidents, kings, oligarchs who couldn't pronounce the spices they ordered. But unlike Victoria's empire of curated ego, Jean-Pierre wasn't cruel. He was exact, honest. The kind of chef who could sniff a lie in a stockpot from a mile away and taste stolen genius like counterfeit saffron. 6:45 p.m. 15 minutes until service. The kitchen roared like a beast made of butter and panic. Cameras from Food Network pivoted like vultures sensing collapse, critics murmuring into recorders like prophets waiting for a downfall choir. Knives clashed against cutting boards like a war nobody declared but everybody felt. Steam danced, butter sizzled, apprentices sweat, egos simmered hotter than the soup. Tommy, 22, fresh badge, 3 weeks in the building. Carrying boiling stock like a paladin holding a shield he'd never trained to lift. One wrong electrical cord. One trip. One moment where universe sneezed into fate. Time slowed. The pot arced. Boiling water became a silver scripture in midair. It hit like judgment itself. Victoria's copper pot throne toppled. For hours of work, 12 lobsters. Saffron priced like jewelry ransom. All of it spreading gold liquid rebellion across white tile, draining into a floor sink of swallowed dreams. Victoria screamed, not because she lost a dish, because she lost control of the narrative she didn't author. Margaret stormed in, dress blazing red like institutional wrath. "What in God's name is happening in my kitchen?" she demanded, eyes scanning staff like inventory she always controlled, but never valued. "Anyone can make bisque in 15 minutes. Silence answered first. Silence is ancestral thunder when the oppressed own it. Samuel stepped in from corridor shadow wearing labor, 42 years heavy, shoulders of unprinted truths. Denise was listening outside, mop still in hand black, tired eyes holding galaxies nobody bothered to catalog. Samuel pointed not with his hand, but his voice. "I know someone who cooks the truth, not the title," he said. Margaret sneered at first, but desperation sharpens prejudice into bargaining. Denise entered the prep kitchen. No theatrics. No stage makeup. Just a breath pulled from bone-stored resilience. Ingredients rescued from leftovers. Shrimp shells saved from erasure. One lonely lobster tail. Heavy cream. Aromatics inexpensive but eager to become legend. Traditional French bisque rules screamed impossible. But Denise didn't cook French. She cooked Sullivan. She cooked reclamation. She cooked rebellion, baptized in miso and ancestral bourbon. And then the story rewound, like a documentary no empire could censor. Harlem, NYC apartment. Harlem, young Denise, 8. Standing on unstable step stool, watching her grandmother Ruby move like music made human. Ruby, 62. White chef's apron faded like erased chapters but embroidered with Lexington Hotel still breathing faint authority. Ruby taught her that oil readiness is a sensation, not a specification. That hands remember heat better than thermometers. That food talks if you lower your ego and listen. She taught her the religion of invention, the doctrine of noticing, and most of all, Ruby taught her this truth. A recipe can be stolen, a soul can't. Denise asked once, innocent. "Where did you learn to cook this good, Grandma?" Ruby replied with a smile that held sunsets older than injustice. "Alabama-born, cast-iron skillet, gospel heat, miso magic, 1 drop of bourbon, Sullivan, alchemy." Ruby opened the fridge, pulled out miso and bourbon like 2 vials of ancestral heresy. Whispered like a secret pact not of shame, but protection. "That's Sullivan family magic, baby. They can steal kitchens, but not blood-built flavor." Denise whispered back into the present, eyes closed, heart open, spirit rising. "Okay, Grandma. Let's see if you're still with me." She had no idea the world was seconds away from discovering she had never left the kitchen. She had simply been waiting, invisible, until the right audience held the spoon. A sacred covenant can echo louder than any brass orchestra, even when whispered in a hospital bed. At 9, Denise nodded with the solemn gravity of a chef swearing fealty to flavor itself. Her grandmother Ruby Sullivan's legacy wasn't written in a diploma, it was carved into Denise's pulse. 2 years later, 1999. A Bronx hospital room swallowed the world in pale green curtains and humming death machines. Ruby Sullivan lay diminished by cancer, once commanding hands trembling, fingers like fragile recipe pages being erased by time. Denise was 11, just old enough to understand loss, and too young to survive it without scars. "You remember everything I taught you, baby?" "I remember, Grandma. Every recipe, every warning." "I wrote them all," Denise replied, voice cracking but loyal. Ruby's hollow cheek glistened with a tear. "Don't be silent like I was. Margaret let them take everything from me. My voice too. Fear salted my tongue silent. She inhaled thin air. You stand when your moment arrives. I don't kneel for approval." "I promise, Grandma," Denise whispered. Ruby exhaled like closing quotation marks on a chapter. Ruby's hand went limp knot, graceful like retirement, but tragic like stolen genius filing an exit without applause. Denise held on anyway, held until nurses folded reality back over her like poorly written coverage. Held until grief made her invisible before prejudice ever could. After Ruby died, Denise's world capsized. Her mother descended into depression like a soup that forgot it was meant to warm. No funds, no school, no culinary guilds. At 17, Denise became pregnant. The father vanished faster than boiled water down a drain. She dropped out. At 20, single mother, survival novice, cooking disciple without certification, she applied to every restaurant door in NYC like a pilgrim knocking 52 times over. 3 years, and hearing 52 rejections asking the same questions like scripted humiliation. What culinary degree? Where's your training? Knighted your talent. She had Ruby's hands, Ruby's fire. But she didn't have papers that society fetishized as proof of genius, so she worked as dishwasher, cleaner, janitor. Jobs invisible by job design, but screamingly essential. Degrees weren't paywalled, legacy was. But Denise never stopped cooking. After midnight, when NYC subway stations slept and Harlem's streetlights flickered like embers refusing to die, she practiced at the tiny stove, writing into her notebook like a chef drafting rebellion scrolls. For hours of sleep some days felt like indulgence. Morning of the gala. Denise stood beside her sleeping son, Elijah 8, holding a crayon drawing showing Denise in a tall chef's hat. Bold and wobbly letters, "Best chef in the world, my mom." Her tears burned but refused to fall. Some griefs are too precious to spill into drains. "I won't be silent forever, baby," Denise whispered, tucking the drawing close over her heart like armor no one sees until it gleams. 14 minutes to service. No cameras in the back prep kitchen. No witnesses, except destiny itself, leaning against walls. Denise surveyed ingredients like a seasoned general seeing an inverted battlefield. Shrimp shells rescued from garbage. Heavy cream, basic aromatics, one small lobster tail, spices modest and underestimated. Professional manuals screamed impossible. Tradition cried fraud. Denise prepared sacrilege like scripture. Shrimp shells charred amber, briny perfume, rising deeper than stolen resins, brandy flames reaching 3 feet high. She didn't blink. Saffron blooming slowly in warmed cream-like Mediterranean sunsets held hostage by prejudiced ticking clocks. Then the secret weapon, white miso paste, umami without passports, then one drop of bourbon like ancestral punctuation. 45 seconds remaining. The clock was about to choke on Denise's legacy the same way VIP tables would. Samuel watched from maintenance fate corridor, recognizing movement like a song's first note before virality. She cooks like Ruby prayed into her bones. He breathed quietly. Denise stripped the borrowed apron off like stepping out of borrowed credibility, sliding the bowl toward Samuel. "It's done. Carry the truth, not the title." 60 seconds later, VIP table collision. Richard Cross tasted the bisque like it spoke genetic memory. He stopped. Eyes widened, like someone just turned the overhead kitchen lights on his own forgotten origin. The umpire asked for a sip. Only one. Eyebrows lifting like prophecy rising off cream. In service corridor silence, Denise pushed her mop bucket, unaware she had already cooked her freedom papers into a single bowl. Because some people aren't erased by injustice, they return as flavor no empire can counterfeit. Tonight, the covenant wouldn't just be remembered, it would serve itself on a $10,000 plate and demand witnesses stand for it. Waiting for a world that didn't even know her name, the universe held its breath. But fate doesn't wait for introductions. It waits for impact. Richard Cross set down his spoon with a porcelain soft clink against the china. Not done, awakened. Made this. His voice sliced through ambiance like a hot blade splitting burr-cold arrogance. Victoria Price blinked, rehearsed composure cracking like burnt stock. "I told you, Mr. Cross. It's my signature. No, one word. Ice absolute. I've eaten your bisque. It follows rules like a student reciting scripture. This bowl breaks them like a prophet rewriting God's footnotes." He tapped the rim. "There's miso here, bourbon, a kind of depth I haven't felt since 1990, since my grandmother's Last Supper table sermon." Across the table, Jean-Pierre Laurent nodded. Margaret attempted a charm counter. Offensive. Richard, honey, misunderstanding doesn't RSVP to my galas, but Richard stood. Someone in this building can cook better than your empire of diplomas. And I want to meet them now. Victoria fled, heels firing panic shots through the back corridor. Outside the kitchen entrance, Denise mopped shadows, unaware she had already become spotlight. Victoria yanked Denise's arm. Who the hell are you? Where did you steal my ingredients from? Denise didn't fold. I didn't borrow the truth. I descend from it, and then dropped the lineage grenade. Ruby Sullivan. Silence detonated in Victoria's posture, then threat pivot. She aimed for the only hostage that could shake Denise, her son Elijah. Margaret summoned security. Drama escalating like a heel-stamped decree. Remove her immediately, she commanded. The ballroom judged Denise before listening to her. But Denise finally raised her voice like ancestral fire alarm. You want to know who made it? She shouted to Richard. I did, and that recipe isn't French property. It's Sullivan inheritance reclaimed without royalty dues. They dragged her toward the exit. But halfway there, a drawing fell Elijah's crayon proof of who Denise really was inside her DNA's kitchen guild. A boot crushed it. Denise begged. But the door slammed her into an alley of humiliation and liberation commingled. Samuel Brooks saw the crushed drawing, picked it up like a soldier retrieving classified dignity. He walked to his locker and pulled out Ruby's protégé testament, cloth-wrapped truth older than Margaret's gown bias. 40 years protected, now golden mosquing time. He whispered before stepping back into history. When talent is ignored, it ferments into revolution broth. The notebook wasn't just recipe pages. It was evidence that flavor outruns erasure. And inside that alley outside New York City, Denise Sullivan cried for the last time as a janitor. The next tear would fall under a chef's hat she earned without anyone awarding it. Because destiny doesn't give you a seat at the table. It makes the table walk to you. The ballroom air itself seemed offended by injustice finally being exposed. Richard Cross remained upright while well-thawed 200 pairs of diamond-ringed hands sat paralyzed. Margaret Thornton stammered an attempt at damage control theatrics. Richard, please. She was a janitor. She had no right. I don't care about rights, Richard, growled anger smoldering, but pain now visible around the edges. I care about truth with talent thickness. He moved toward the exit with billionaire weight dragging momentum. Margaret lunged for diplomacy like a chef reaching for garnish. Please be reasonable. He turned. You want to know why I care about a bowl of soup? Because it tasted like a memory my success had no Wi-Fi for. His Georgia trailer raised history spilled out like broth breaking rupture point. Food stamps, government cheese, abandonment baked into childhood hunger. Samuel Brooks stepped forward with gravity that didn't need a velvet rope. He asked quietly about Margaret's termination archives and Ruby Sullivan. Richard realized the lineage wasn't a coincidence. It was culinary inheritance returning like unpaid. Royalties with teeth. Margaret demanded staff be searched like society was an infection needing scrubbing. Workers lined up like suspects in a courtroom not geared for innocence. Denise, gray uniformed, mop in hand, was pointed out by Shell Shock Lodging. You want to know who made it? Denise announced mid-drag sequence. It was me, and my grandmother's legacy doesn't require citations from the approved. Margaret barked at guards dragging. Denise into Boncold Alley exile where humiliation kissed prophecy. 14 minutes on the back prep countdown. Denise surveyed ingredients like a chef reading bones instead of resums. Shrimp shells rescued from bleach-soiled fate, heavy cream warmed slowly with saffron threads blooming like overdue justice sunrise. Miso stirred in like heresy that outperformed diplomacy. And one drop of bourbon whispered for you, Grandma, like a covenant that refused NDAs. The VIP table tasted it. Jean-Pierre Laurent tasted it. Eyebrows rose. Chewing stopped. Tears arrived. Respect awakened dead dreams. Jean-Pierre stood. Mademoiselle Denise, he said. I have 3 Michelin stars, but I cannot make this dish, because I don't have what you have. Memory, love, pain, hope. Applause began like a thunderstorm no empire curated. The service door opened and Elijah, 8-year-old legacy supporter, ran into the room, wearing pajamas and unscripted emotional punctuation. Mama? Denise caught him. She held him. The room held its breath again, but differently this time, like witnesses at a baptism. Margaret attempted rebrand, smiling, unexpected surprise. At the Lexington, we've always believed, Margaret. Stop, Richard clipped. We're not editing reality. We're investigating it. Richard declared ownership stake and demanded investigation into 40 years of erasure by prejudice and promotion by theft. Ruby Sullivan's handwriting was revealed by Samuel's notebook testimony like evidence bag magic. Denise spoke directly to Margaret, voice without hatred, just full-plate truth. You said I smelled like poverty. Yes, you were right, Denise continued, lifting hands rough from labor, not legacy theft. I smell like 2-hour bus rides, night shift bleach covenants, rent anxiety seasoning. But these hands know something no one can buy. Paused, looked at the crowd like it was the jury. You know how to make a billionaire cry. Samuel added, tissue voice quiet. I've protected this notebook 40 years for a moment like tonight. He stood beside Denise's like ancestral kitchen sommelier. Margaret stood alone, facing plaque judgment reading, excellence is not a birthright. It is a choice. The words glared back at her like evidence she authored by errors. Later, Denise sat in employee break room, Elijah asleep on her shoulder, trending online like impossibility going viral. Reporters called her the mop chef. Not insult, but redemption headline. A board member entered Margaret's office later, resignation script already brewing. The board decided she should resign. Margaret whispered, now tasting humiliation she'd served for 60 years. I built this hotel. Samuel replied gently from doorway. No, ma'am, you guarded it. Ruby built its flavor, because infrastructure feeds bodies, but heritage feeds legend, and legend just fed the infrastructure back. The storm didn't roar to announce itself. It whispered, swept ankles, then drowned reputations. You destroyed its legacy. The court finality of the universe spoke through Richard's decision without needing volume. Margaret Thornton wrote her collapse in ink. The resignation letter she signed wasn't paper, it was the guillotine of her dynasty. Victoria Price burned faster. Its social media didn't drag her out the back door, it dragged her across the internet, chance style, no rhythm, pure verdict, recipe thief, career built on lies. Every partnership evaporated like over-reduced stock left unattended. Restaurants ghosted her. Networks archived her existence. She didn't exit public life. She was de-indexed from it. Then contrast struck like white plating under spotlight. Tribeca Manhattan, a restaurant that smelled like justice and rosemary. Harvest funded, birthed, weaponized by Richard Cross. Denise walked in wearing a white chef's coat, name stitched like a coronation oath, unstealable now. Chef Denise Sullivan. She didn't walk like someone promoted. She walked like someone long delayed but finally authenticated. Her brigade gathered. No silver spoons, only silver potential. Young cooks who came from hunger instead of critics. In this kitchen, she declared, I don't care where you went to school. I don't care who you know. I care if you love food. I care if you're willing to learn. Yes, chef, they echoed back. Voices synchronized like ribs hitting a pan at the exact moment. Denise continued, hands lifted in biography form, not apology. I mopped floors for 15 years waiting for a chance. You have that chance now. Don't waste it. The fire transferred wasn't generational this time. It was access corrective. Outside, a remnant of old cowardice waited. Derek Hayes. Winter-cooled regret. Denise, can I have a minute? She didn't give softness because he asked. She gave silence because he earned no seasoning yet. I know you have no reason to forgive me, Derek confessed. I was scared. I was selfish. I threw you under the bus to protect myself. Yes, you did, she replied, eyes broiling, truth hotter than accusation. I'm not asking forgiveness, he said. Just want you to know. I understand now. Fear isn't an excuse for betrayal. Denise inspected him like a dish that still needs cooking. I don't forgive you, she said, but I don't hate you either. Life will teach you what I don't need to. No vengeance garnish, only growth marinade. Inevitable, self-served. Time jump seasoned itself. 3 months later, harvest was reservation wildfire. The hottest menu in the city wrote tribute, not theft. Ruby's Bisque. Original recipe by Ruby Sullivan. 1978. Restored by her granddaughter, Denise Sullivan. Richard sat among investors, empire profit mode now. You ask why I invested $10 million, because I believe in the person in that kitchen. She waited a lifetime to be seen. Now the whole world is watching, and legacy answered the knock. Hungry herd, historicized. 6 months later, Harlem Phoenix rehabbed from erasure. A sign hung above ancestral debt paid forward. Ruby Sullivan Culinary Center. Tagline, carved like doctrine radium. Excellence is not a birthright. It is a choice. Free training for the uncredentialed but unendeflatable. Single mothers, low-income dreamers, former prisoners holding knives like second-chance visas, foster kids stirring futures thicker than sauces, immigrants chopping stereotypes instead of vegetables tonight. Denise walked the aisle now. 6 months ago I was mopping floors invisible to everyone. Now I'm here. The only difference is someone finally gave me a chance. She stopped at a 19-year-old single mother, hands trembling like unboiled stock. The world told me I couldn't be a chef. The world was wrong, and the world is wrong about you too. Let's prove it together. Heritage, not humiliation. Recognition, not rejection. Photos on the wall told a corrected history timeline. Ruby in the Lexington kitchen. 1978. Denise and Elijah at Harvest opening night. Ruby's recipe book preserved under glass museum soft, but fireproof now. At home, Denise cooked for Elijah. No audience, only love plating. Mama, when I grow up, can I cook like you? You'll cook better than me, she said, kneeling like a mother, rising like an institution. Because you won't have to wait as long. She flipped Ruby's book open to prophecy fulfilled. Last line shaky, now immortalized by outcome instead of expectation. One day, someone will taste and understand. Maybe not me, but someone who belongs to me. Denise touched the words, tears glazing like perfect reduction. I did it, Grandma. They tasted and they understood, and they will never forget us. Then the closing narrator energy turned universal, a hook dipped in heart instead of soup. If this story touched you, subscribe and share it with someone who needs to hear it today. Because somewhere right now, someone is scrubbing floors while carrying genius seasoning in their veins. The world might not see them yet, but fate already smelled them coming. One day they'll taste, one day they'll understand. Tell us in the comments, what gift are you carrying that the world hasn't seen?